As soon as I came onto Coinbase, we decided to do an event together. It's the DC Privacy Summit that is going to be held on October 24th, an all-day event, 9:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon. And it's going to be just fantastic, in my opinion, because I'm coming in as Coinbase Institute as kind of a lead sponsor, and I'm helping to organize the event. But Project Glitch is really managing the program and helping to identify speakers that are going to make this a very special event. And they've done just an amazing job, and we do have an incredible lineup. So Mike, do you want to just talk about how you approached programming for this event and what you were trying to shoot for and what people will experience when they come to this event on the 24th of October?
Yeah, I think with Glitch generally, one of the things that we want to try to do is when we do reporting and meet a bunch of interesting people and learn about a bunch of interesting things, we don't want that to be just sort of one and done and then kind of have that disappear into the memory hole, and anybody can find our content anytime they want. But in-person events struck us as an opportunity to turn some of that reporting that we're doing on the page into a different format that may resonate differently, may resonate with more people, but also gives us an opportunity to develop a business plan around our journalism, which is something that is extremely challenging in this particular industry. And I think the topic that we've chosen to focus on is we have glommed on to the Tornado Cash case in the same vein of this interest in privacy technology and zero knowledge and how that matters in the rest of the world. This is an example of a system that is a truly decentralized system that can't be killed, and it has had a kind of a violent collision with the traditional regulatory mindset. And that has led me to learn about how people are kind of imagining the way that zero knowledge cryptography could be used to actually help get around this problem, which is interesting in itself. There's a whole zero knowledge cryptography has this whole other facet that hasn't been unlocked yet. And what we realized is that we had established enough of a storyline and enough of a network just through our journalism that we had an opportunity to bring it to life. And it's not just a dorm room conversation. There are people there are people in jail, people facing prison time. There's constitutional questions about the First Amendment and the Fourth Amendment. And this is Washington, D.C., so there's no better place to have this conversation. And maybe if it's an in-person conversation as opposed to simply writing some of these things down, it could have a different kind of an impact.
Yeah, I could build on that. Mike's use of the word conversation, that's a word that we use a lot internally. Obviously, journalism is about going out and reporting stories and, finding, sort of uncovering truths and doing all of the sort of gumshoeing stuff that people imagine journalists do. I think more and more it needs to be thought of as a conversation, and an event is just an amazing way to, as Mike said, bring that to life, bring people into the room, people with diverse viewpoints, diverse opinions, some of which will be, they're not all going to come and agree with each other, and that's a good thing. We want people in the room who are opinionated, who have been out there in trenches as technologists, as policymakers, as thought leaders, coming together and disagreeing with one another and, doing the hard work of figuring out how to move forward in a constructive way. We want to help create a venue for that. I mean, that's what you do, Paul, with PGP, is to convene, right? And as Mike said, through the course of reporting, we've identified people, we've identified these different perspectives and these different experiences that people are having with the technologies that they're building. And oftentimes they will have an idea about how the world should move forward or how their part of the world should move forward. And you talk to enough of them and you realize that sometimes they're not all talking to each other. And so the DC Privacy Summit is an opportunity to bring those people together.
I think it's just a good opportunity to, meet people where they are and bring lots of the people that we've been speaking to who often even refer to each other into the same room to kind of, I don't know, because I speak to a bunch of different people who have different perspectives on Tornado Cash from what even we've been writing. So it's kind of going to be interesting for us to meet people who believe different things from us even. So I'm excited.
Well, the event is really coming together incredibly well. So let's talk about the speakers between us, and based on your prior work in the space and in my work in the space as well. I think we have access to a true all-star lineup. I mean, really of privacy luminaries. It's not just something that you're going to pull together overnight. Even though we pulled this together pretty darn quick, we have just a fantastic lineup. Who would like to give us a rundown?
They're so great. I mean, Mike is the one, he's been the prime mover in terms of talking to these people and getting them on board. But I just want to say that my experience of doing events is usually that a lot of people say no before some say yes. And in this case, it's been like every person, we were like, let's shoot for the moon. Who do we want? Peter Van Valkenburg, Zuko Wilcox, Rebecca Rettig, and I got a text from Mike going, yeah, Rettig's in. And I'm like, wow, it's just kept happening. It's so exciting to have this lineup. But I think, Mike, you as the person who has been out there really making those connections and working to curate this program, I think the most of all of us, you should speak to it.
I guess I have been approaching this in terms of similar to how I would approach a story that we would report out, that we would write. So being conscious of the sequence of which ideas we want to talk about, and also the way that the sequence in which they're presented and things like that. And so, yeah, Peter Van Valkenburg of Coin Center has spoken in many different venues on Tornado Cash and the stakes for privacy with those particular cases. There's a number of lawsuits that are ongoing and also some criminal cases that are extremely relevant to the future of privacy generally. Peter will speak to kick off the day, and we will talk to Rebecca Rettig and Michael Mosier, who have written a very influential policy paper about the idea that if it's a genuine DeFi system, old approaches to management of the risk of illicit finance simply won't work in some cases because it's dependent on there being a centralized intermediary. And Tornado Cash is a really good example of this. When the term DeFi comes up, maybe not everyone thinks about Tornado Cash, but it's actually a perfect example of a decentralized financial system. And it's one that probably, if you want to manage the risk there of illicit finance, need to come up with a different way, because the traditional approach of levying sanctions and prosecuting developers, I guess, if you can call that traditional, hasn't stopped the tool from being used. But we don't want to talk about Tornado Cash all day. It's just that you can't have a serious conversation without broaching that subject right off the bat. It's sort of the elephant in the room. But there are plenty of folks out there who talk about privacy in a different way and are building systems that maybe they're kind of like Tornado Cash in the sense that they use zero knowledge and they put user privacy at the highest priority, but they're after different end goals, and we want those people to talk about that. So one example of that is Aztec. Another example is Alio. Hopefully we'll have some representatives from those projects, which are really interesting there.
What we have set up is just amazing, and we are going to have some senior level policymakers, so hopefully we'll have that to announce very soon. And, I would say that we're really focused on this event not coming across as overly technical, although it is a very technical topic. We're talking about technology here that is really hard to get your head around. In fact, people refer to it as moon math because it is so hard to get your head around. But the goal, and the reason why I'm so happy to work with Project Glitch on this, is because it is their special talent to be able to take content like this and make it digestible, make it understandable, take a little bit of the tech jargon out of it and make it something that is actually usable by policymakers, which is really our goal here, because we're in DC. We want there to be solutions for these really difficult problems that policymakers are dealing with. So hopefully this event will make a contribution, and we hope this will be an annual event going forward. In fact, that's why we're referring to it as the inaugural DC Privacy Summit, because this is going to be something that is going to be developing and evolving over years. So this is something we could do next year and probably a number of years into the future. To register for the DC Privacy Summit, go to dcprivacysummit.org, and there you can see all the details about the event and find the registration link as well. We really hope to see you. It's going to be very special, and hopefully we will all walk away with a new understanding of this really fascinating and impactful technology.